What's up, Christ Center Mental Health community? This is me, David Lydia Sarchet. I represent Christ Center Mental Health, the ministry where I talk about mental health awareness from a Christian perspective in order to give you real hope in Jesus' name to the glory of God the Father by the power of the Holy Spirit. Alright, before I get started on this video, I just have a couple announcements for those of you that are new to this channel. You can support this ministry through prayer, and you can also support this ministry through Patreon. And also, for those of you that are in Christian married relationships that struggle with mental illness, you can please come join the group called Holy Matrimony and Mental Illness. It's on Facebook. It's for Christian married couples who deal with mental illness to fellowship with other like believers and have a time of encouragement, have a time of fellowship and encourage one another in the faith, and to give each other sound biblical wisdom. So the links to these will be in the description box below, so please come check them out. Alright, so the reason why I decided to do this video on homelessness and mental illness is because I really do have a heart for the homeless, especially the homeless that are mentally ill, because it really is disheartening how much the mentally ill who are homeless get ignored. Like it's appalling. Like, I mean, like, the homeless who are mentally ill truly have no one. I mean, at least mentally ill people who aren't homeless, like like myself. I mean, I'm fortunate to have my wife, and I have my sisters, and I have my church, and I'm doing pretty well for myself. But there's people who are homeless who struggle with mental illness who truly have no one, who have been rejected by their family, who have been rejected by their friends, and on top of that, like, they don't have the funds to be able to see a mental health professional, that to get psychiatric medications, and their mind is just progressively getting worse, because mental illness is progressive. So that means as it goes untreated, it gets worse. So I'm pretty sure you've seen the homeless people who are walking the streets and they're talking to themselves because their mind has slipped that far gone. So I want to share a statistic that I found from it's called the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. They said as of 2015, 564,708 people were homeless on a given night in the United States. And then at minimum, about 440,000, which is roughly about 25% of those who were homeless, were seriously mentally ill. Like, that's a staggering number. And then they also said, by comparison, a 2016 study found that 4.2% of U.S. adults had a serious mental illness. And then some common mental disorders that homeless people experience are mainly stuff like affective disorders such as bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and substance abuse disorders. So I want to take this moment to just tell you guys a little bit about my story about being homeless. Like, I've actually been homeless about at least 5 times in my life since the time I was 19 years old. Like, I've had many times where I was homeless, and and it was because, and I honestly, looking back on it, was because of my mental illness, because I couldn't handle, like, I couldn't hold down a job, and I couldn't I was really unstable, and so I would end up getting kicked out of the place that I was living in and going and living on homeless shelters. And I lived in, like, homeless shelters. I lived in cars pretty much. I remember there was a few times where I found a old car lot. Well, no, it wasn't an old car lot. It was a used car lot where the car doors were unlocked, and I would at nighttime, I'd go and sleep in one of the cars, like, and then I'd leave early in the morning before anybody found me. Like, so I did that a few times. I slept outside on the ground. I slept on park benches, and yeah, and because of this, like, I didn't always have medication, and I wasn't seeing a psychiatrist because I didn't have any money. and I had no insurance. And as a result of that, I ended up having psychotic episodes, like in the shelters that I was in, and I ended up being hospitalized a few times when I was homeless. Um, like I said before, the reason why I was homeless is because of my mental illness. I was very unstable, and I couldn't hold down a job. And part of it, for the longest time, I wasn't taking medication because I thought I could just fight my mental illness, and I didn't realize that mental illness was progressive. And like I just thought I could fight it, and like I just thought, well, I have Jesus, so Jesus will help me be stable. Needless to say, I was actually gradually getting worse over time. Um, yeah, and like I got fired from many jobs. I ended up quitting many jobs because I'd have like manic episodes where I'd get like super agitated and just blow up on people and quit my job. I mean, there was one incident where like I was working at a pizza restaurant, and I was a dishwasher one night, and I was also a paper boy. And I remember I was working at that job, and like I ended up I was I ended up, I had to close down that night, and I remember I didn't get off of work until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I came back home, and I had to get ready to do my paper route right away. So I did the paper route, and then I had to go back in the morning to the pizza restaurant. And I remember the manager at the time that was on shift. Like he started yelling at me over something stupid. And like normally, what most people would have done in that situation is they would have reacted rationally, calmly, and they would have just been like, you know what, it's whatever, and just sucked it up and just went to work. Me, because I was unstable, I ended up blowing up on the manager, cursing him out, and then I quit my job because like part of my mental illness is I'm very impulsive. So I ended up I quit my job, and like it, so like and then I ended up getting the job back later because I talked to the owner, but by that time it was already too late because I already got an eviction notice because I couldn't pay my rent. But yeah, so um, that's just one example of how my mental illness affected my job. But yeah, so like, how do people treat homeless people with mental illness? Well, like, this is actually like this. So one of the ways people, one of the ways people, well, first off, people with mental illness get treated badly, and mentally ill people get treated even worse. Like homeless people in general get treated badly. I mean, homeless people tend to get ignored, but mentally ill people get treated even worse. And some of the ways mentally ill people who are homeless, well, mentally ill people in general get treated, and mentally ill people who are homeless get treated is, the first way is we get mocked to our faces. We also get people look down on us as they avoid us while we are in an episode. Or like also another thing that they do, though, they tend to stare at us when we're in an episode. There's many times where I was in the middle of an episode, I remember people would stare at me like as if I was some kind of zoo animal. And then also, people would talk down to us as if we're children. Like I've experienced that many times from from people you wouldn't think would do that, like people that working, like when I'm buying something in the gas station or like something like that, or cashiers at a grocery store. Um, and then also another thing, other homeless people tend to take advantage of other homeless people who are mentally ill. So for instance, like they'll steal from us, or they'll physically assault us sometimes. And some mentally ill people that are homeless end up getting sexually assaulted too by other homeless people. So, some ways that you can help if you see someone who's struggling with mental illness that's homeless. If you see someone that's mental illness and they're homeless and they're in an episode, call 911 immediately. And do this even if you see someone taking advantage of a mentally ill homeless person. And do not leave until the police show up. So call 911 immediately and stay around until the police show up. Also, if you come across a mentally ill person who's homeless and they're in an episode or whatever, don't be afraid to talk to them. Because sometimes we just need someone who cares enough to listen to us. Like, I mean, I know some of the best experiences I've had when dealing with my mental illness is when people took the time to actually hear me out and try and understand where I'm coming from. So don't underestimate the power of listening and showing empathy. Like, and also you don't need to be afraid of mentally ill people because most mentally ill people are more of a danger to themselves than we are to other people. So you don't have to be afraid of us, like, because more likely we're not going to try to hurt you. Um, Also, realize that we are human beings made in the image of God, and treat us with respect and dignity. Don't talk to us like we're children. Don't mock us. Don't disrespect it. Like, treat us as if you would treat your another fellow image bearer of God. And also, um, another thing, if you see us in an episode, please do not stop and stare at us as if we're animals in the zoo, because that's unhelpful. It's not it's just wrong. Like, we're not animals, we're human beings. Like, and obviously we're going through a really tough time if you're seeing us in an episode, so you don't need to stare at us. Staring at us will not help us out. Like, if you see us in the episode, just call 911 and get us help immediately. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about that. This was a short video, pretty much to the point. I thank you for watching this video, and if you've been blessed by the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry, please consider supporting this ministry through Patreon. If you do support the ministry through Patreon, they give you access to a devotional on faith and mental illness. I am working on publishing a hard copy of a devotional I wrote on faith and mental illness, and I'll make that available for free for all my Patreon members or anyone who pledges to Patreon. And I'm also gonna, for those of you that don't want to pledge to Patreon, I'm also gonna sell the devotional on Amazon for a discounted price as well. So keep an eye out for that. Also, it'll give you access. Pledging to Patreon will give you access to other exclusive content as well, like a private Discord community for online fellowship and peer support. All right, so also, for those of you that struggle with mental health issues, me and my team are making ourselves available via our emails and the Christ Center Mental Health Ministry line. So you could call me at 567-343-3727. Once again, that's 567-343-3727. If you do call me, and I don't answer, just please leave a voicemail, and I promise you I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And like, peer support calls take first priority. And if you don't want to call me, you can always email me at christcentermentalhealth@gmail.com. I check that email frequently, so I'll answer you back right away. Also, my team members' emails are in the description box below as well, so you can email one of them if you want to talk to one of them for peer support. Keep in mind, we are not mental health professionals, so we will always recommend that you see a mental health professional first. However, as people who struggle with mental illness ourselves, or who have loved ones who struggle with mental illness, we offer our services as peer support only. All right, anyways, have a good day. God bless you, and stay strong in the Lord. All right, bye.